Time to look at another absolutely gorgeous pair of headphones from Meze. This one's called the Lyric. It's a closeback. It's a planar closeback, which there aren't a ton of on the market. I reviewed a few a while back. I'll link to that. But it's not a super common typology to go planar and closeback, so not a ton to choose from. And they've got their, I guess they call it like a isodynamic hybrid array, but they've got this cool design that they developed with a company, former USSR company that's based in Ukraine and Poland. I hope everyone's doing okay. And the way they've sort of shaped the planar design, it sort of focuses in line with the eardrum, so you don't get a lot, so you don't just have like a wall of the planar membrane moving, just bouncing sound waves all over and refracting off various parts of your ear before it actually gets where it's going. So it's kind of a cool, novel design. I got to spend a lot of time with the Empyreans a while back, and they are also just a wonderful pair of headphones to hold and look at and be in the presence of. Build on these is, unsurprisingly fantastic. Lots of great materials throughout. Light, but just rock solid. Nice touches. There's some cool stuff around like shaping of the headband to try to get some air movement and reduce any hot points. I think a bunch of the chassis magnesium, which is like super crazy light, and then some aluminum, machine stuff, like nice textures, nice finishes. Just, comfy, light, beautiful, and 3.5 millimeter headphone jack termination. Wonderful. So many cable options for you to choose from. They also give you two, and their cables are not too shabby right out of the box. They're two different lengths. This is the long one, and there's also a shorter one, presuming you're using it with like a mobile solution. And that's sort of what they kind of bill this as, like, go mobile and don't sacrifice the quality of your listening experience. That's an interesting one. I think, they are pretty efficient. The 30 ohm, 100 dB. I tried to drive them off my laptop, and I was like, yeah, okay, sure, acceptable. Plugged into a proper amp, they have a lot more to offer. So I'm not really a DAP guy. I'm not a super like portable oriented big headphone listener. So maybe I'm the complete wrong person to be doing this review, but this is who you have right now. So I'm so sorry. So maybe listening to this with a mobile powered source would be totally in the pocket. But for me, like driving it off my phone or driving it off my laptop, just didn't really click for me. I did, like I said, the cables are pretty nice. I did happen to have on hand a compatible cable that's like a very nice high-end cable that's also terminated 4-pin XLR balance, so I could try it off some balance amps, and that for me really brought these to life in a way that the stock cable off the 3.5 millimeter to 1/4 inch adapter didn't quite offer. Not to say that chain is bad, just to say I think there's even more that these headphones have to offer as just a like stationary closeback headphone, as opposed to framing them exclusively as a portable headphone. But they do come with a nice traveling case and all that, so if that's what you're after, they're right there with you. They've got some pretty trick technology in here, beyond their special drivers. Something they call Phase X, which is a sort of patent pending and sort of not super clearly explained from the literature that I read, but the goal of it being to generate a soundstage that's sort of defeats some of the classic closeback problems of feeling closed in and feeling sort of a shallow soundstage, and one where you don't really get a sense of the room. And they've got this wacky thing I think is so cool. It's called ear pad airflow, where somewhere in here there's channels where when the driver is trapped against your head and there's nowhere for the sort of blowback of air to go, it moves into the pad. So basically the pad becomes extra volume for your sound cups. So instead of having giant sound cups on your ear, you're taking advantage of all this extra air volume while still remaining a closed back. So I don't know, it's kind of wacky. I have no idea what the effect is, but that's cool. These guys are always thinking, and I really appreciate that about them. They've got an insane passion for this stuff, and they really work hard to build products that are just incredibly well put together. It pays off. I will say, the space that you get, the sense of the room of what you're hearing is very nice. It is very differentiated from a lot of closebacks I've heard. It does feel much more expansive, much more like a open back. You don't get that sort of that like reverberation muddiness that you can get with a closed back. It's kind of got like a sort of high-end, like a modern high-end speaker vibe to me, where you're sitting in a very nice listening room and you're getting a lot of detail and space and separation and openness, a little bit of dryness, and like female vocals, for instance, are like right inside your head. They're like right in the pocket. Is that the second time I've said pocket? I'm in the pocket. I'm in the pocket, talking about pockets. And then, you'll hear the strum of a guitar sort of appear off, to the right and above, and you'll hear a kick drum sort of come in lower left, and you've got this dimensionality to it, which is kind of cool. The sort of the signature overall, I would say, is very crisp. It's very snappy. It's a pretty fast headphone. It can accelerate really quickly. You can kind of get some impact, get some surprise. Things can kind of jump out at you in a way that's pretty fun, pretty exciting. I'd say the upper tonal range, like mid, higher octave piano strikes and things, are like a sort of more pronounced, a little bit more forward. Like I said, it's a bit on the dry side. It's airing on that sort of wispy, airy, sort of presentation. I feel like while spatially vocals are inside your head, I feel like in terms of the balance of the headphone, they're maybe pulled back compared to some other headphones. Upper mids are sort of set back ever so slightly. Very, very sort of even across the tonal range. Like nothing's overly emphasized, nothing's overly recessed. It's just sort of flat feels like a dirty word. Like flat's not a bad term. It's just sort of saying, like, in the tuning, they haven't decided to really bring anything, or emphasize anything more than anything else. There's a lot of resolution in these headphones. They're not inexpensive, so you would expect that, and you get a lot of resolution. Do you get as much resolution as like some of the top tier Summit planar headphones, open back headphones? I don't know. I didn't detect it. I think like I said, I think there's a lot of resolution here. Is there it's also sort of an unfair comparison because, $3,000-$4,000 open back headphones, $2,000 closed back headphones. Maybe it's unfair, but just a benchmark. I think there's additional resolution out there beyond these headphones, but that's not necessarily a criticism. Bass is very detailed, very well rendered. There's not a ton of it. Like if you're thinking, oh, closed back headphone, that means just wallops of bass, big boomy experience. That's not what you're getting here. These are very atypical to a lot of closed backs I've heard, mostly in a very good way. But if you're like a bass head and you're like, oh, closed back, I'm just gonna get the slam. This is not these headphones. There are much bigger bass cannons out there to be had. Now, if you like a drier, cleaner, well-detailed, well-articulated bass and you need a closed-back headphone, then yeah, this is a really interesting option. They're just, they're just controlled. And I think that's true of other Meze products I've tried, and a little bit sort of like in the Dan Clark audio voicing. There's like this restraint, this tidiness, this cleanliness, this crispness, this spatialness, this openness. You know, it's a sound signature. It's that hi-fi sound signature. It's very much, you know, it's sort of it emphasizes the delicateness of a fine recording, that sense of the room, that sense of space and whisper, the little moment, little inhale of the artist before they start belting. Those are the moments that I think this headphone really celebrates. You know, to sort of wrap it up, it's like a lot of closed-back headphones are a pretty big compromise, right? You're accepting, if you're in an environment where you don't want a lot of sound leakage, you want the privacy of what you're listening to, or you don't want to disturb people around you. You know, you're typically sort of, compared to high-end open backs, you are accepting some compromises. You're not really compromising that much with this headphone if you're into sort of that high-end audio sound. That being said, I think this is a headphone that encourages you to really study and observe the music and appreciate the detail. I don't know if this is a headphone that like is gonna sink you into the groove, right? Is gonna like let you just plummet into, you know, just get lost in the rhythm and in the musicality. I think this is a headphone that is technically very impressive and, you know, celebrates a lot of where recording technology has evolved to and what high-end audio can offer. But like I said, it's a bit, maybe it's a bit lean, it's a bit dry, it's a bit controlled for me, overall, for my personal taste. And I recognize that like different people are coming at this hobby and at music listening, from different places. And that's why I'm like, this is not a critique. This is a matter of taste and preference. And so I think it's a phenomenal achievement of what they're able to do in a closed back. It's definitely a very rewarding listen. And I think, like I said, with the right cable and the right amp, you can actually sort of overcome a bit of those, a bit of its sort of controlling nature. You can sort of push it onto the dance floor and say, come on, man, let's go. Let me show you your moves. And it comes to life a bit more, but in native form, like, you know, probably plugged into a mobile source. I'm going to say you're going to get a very high-end listening experience, that is maybe a little less fluid, a little less sort of rich in the lower mids, a little less kind of quote unquote warm, a little less wet. You know, it's leaning into that hi-fi sound, and I think that's great if that's what you're after. Yeah, I think that pretty much wraps it up. So yeah, another great accomplishment from the folks at Meze. Yeah. Okay. Well, hey, until next time, this is Signcraft, signing out.